Hey, this is John Lee Dumas, the founder and host of Entrepreneurs on Fire. And if you're wanting to learn how to embrace change and navigate through disruption as a leader, then listen to the Leadership is Changing podcast with my good friend, Denis. He's prepared to ignite.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis.
Hey, welcome to the show, Leadership is Changing. What we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Leaders everywhere confront similar obstacles because people are people, but everywhere you go, leaders are overwhelmed, disrupted, and under pressure. They run from email to email, meeting to meeting. Many leaders are not changing quick enough, which means they run the risk of becoming irrelevant and being left behind. Perhaps the show is taking our listeners' leadership to another level by finding their balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. I believe we don't have enough effective leaders in the world today, and if we can get the leaders to step up and lead change, then they can inspire real change. Hey listeners, it's now time to adapt in our fast-moving world. Great to have you here with me on this freestyle episode with the Ask Denis episode that happens once a week. This is where I'm asked a question by our listeners and I share my thoughts, insights, and experiences from working with many leaders around the globe. If you haven't already checked out the Facebook group or the LinkedIn page, Leadership is Changing, please go here to those different platforms. We'd love to see you join those different communities and start talking about the area of leadership is changing, leadership, change itself, and so forth. You know what? People are saying to me, leadership is changing? Well, it needed to change, Denis. We needed it to happen, and it still needs to be done on a regular basis. So if you haven't checked out those platforms, love to see you there. All right, so today I want to talk to you about a topic, which is take both masks off. It's an interesting topic here because I had a conversation the other day with one of my clients, and we was talking about leaders and in general and how leaders show up and so forth. And I said, today leaders need to take both masks off. And they said, oh, what do you mean? I went, well, we actually have the physical mask for COVID, whereby we need to take that one off. But then there's this other mask that a lot of leaders are wearing today that's not a physical mask, but it's a mask that leaders are hiding behind. And so today I want to talk about that because we need to understand a few things as leaders, and that is, how are you showing up every single day? It is a fast-paced, ever-changing world, and we've got so much going on. And as we say in the introduction and also the ending, that change is constant. That's the one thing that we do know that is constant. And so for you and I, how do we think about this as leaders, and what do we do? And are we hiding behind something? Then like another mask, a title could be a mask, as I'm talking about, right? So they could be hiding behind their title. They could be hiding behind many things as leaders. And so what about the second mask, and what do we need to do to remove it? It's something that I find that a lot of leaders are trying to be something they're not. They're not actually being real or authentic. In fact, they're trying to do something or be something. It's almost like a switch is flipped when they're into work mode, or they've got that title of a manager, director, vice president, senior vice president, and so forth, CEO. But what is it? Why does it flip that switch, and why do they become something else? For a lot of them, they become something they're not. They're trying to be somebody else, or they're trying to be this leader that they have in their mind on what it should look like and what it should be like. For a lot of them, it's what I call the see, do, get model. They've seen things being done previously, so they think that's how you do it, and so they'll do things, but then they start to wonder, why do I still get the same results? It's a bit like performance reviews. If you've never done a performance review as a leader, as a manager, well, then what do? If you've had no training around it, well, then the only reference point you have is for you to refer back to the one that you've experienced yourself personally with your previous managers. Now, whether that be right or wrong, whether it have been done well or not, that is your reference point. And so for a lot of leaders, they will go back to seeing what they've done, will do what they've seen, and then they're going to get certain results. What we need here is leaders to actually be what I call authentic. But you see, leaders, it's actually how you show up is what the real key is. your team, your customers, your stakeholders, your leadership that you look up to, or your peers, they're all wanting you to show up in a way that's actually we're going to see the real you, the authentic you. Now, how can you be vulnerable, real, authentic, and transparent as a leader? I've done quite a few episodes over the last 18 months, right? And so this is going to be episode 238. And from an Ask Denis perspective, there's the freestyle, but then I've been doing a whole lot of interviews over the last 18 months. And one of the common themes that I keep seeing come through is that employees and others are expecting leaders to be real, authentic, transparent, and vulnerable. In fact, it's getting louder and louder and louder every year that people are wanting this. Why? Because this is the people that they can relate to. This is the person who they want to succeed as a leader in the organization. They want their organization to succeed. They want to be part of a winning team. And so if they can be around people who are real, authentic, transparent, and vulnerable, that's going to really help them. You see, your team, your people, they deserve world-class leadership. They also deserve the real you, not somebody hiding behind a mask or hiding behind a title or hiding behind something. Someone who's going to actually step up, show up, and actually be there with them. When we went through the first round of lockdowns throughout the world, and the pandemics, and it was all brand new for everybody, really interesting to step back afterwards and do a little bit of a reflection and think about what actually happened. A lot of leaders were looking after their teams and making sure their teams were at home working and everything was okay. At the end of week 2, what the leaders actually understood is they forgot one thing, and that was themselves. Yes, they were worrying about everyone else and taking care of everyone else, making sure that everyone's going to be fine, but they forgot about themselves. And for some of them, they started to crash. For some of them, they were just overwhelmed. But then there was this other group of leaders that didn't actually step up or show leadership throughout that period of time, even though if they had the title of manager or director and so forth. So what were they doing? Were they hiding behind the title? Were they hiding at home? Because you see, everyone else around them needed them to be a rock. Now, for some people, when they're a leader in good times, it goes well. But when they're a leader in hard times, for some of them, they're not able to do it. And if that's the case, that's fine, because what we'll do is we'll find leaders who can step up, who can do things when we need the leaders at the time. And for those of you in organizations whereby you saw leaders who actually did step up and actually didn't have a title or anything like that, that's your future leaders. They're the ones you're going to look at moving with and working with in the future. You see, for all of us right now as leaders, we've got a microscope on us. We're being looked at very closely by people to see what we do, how we say it, what we say, and what we do around an action perspective. Yes, that's right. Even if you go to the local supermarket, people are watching you every single minute of the day. So how do you actually show up with your friends and your family? How you actually show up at work as a leader? And how you actually show up behind closed doors? It all matters, because how you show up is really what's going to actually help drive things going forward. I think there's 3 questions as leaders we need to ask ourselves every single day. Number 1 could be along the lines of, how will I show up today? What's your attitude going to be like? What your energy level is going to be like? And how are you going to show up? The second part could be, how can I inspire people? You see, you've got motivated people around you, but it's how you can inspire them, how you can take them to new levels. And the third one would be, what will I do today that's going to add value to others? I think for a lot of leaders, this is the thing around the mask. Get yourself out of the way. Now, what do I mean by that? For a lot of you, you are self-conscious, not audience conscious, whether that's in a presentation, a one-on-one meeting, or anything that you're doing. It's not about you as a leader. Yes, we want you to be the great leader. We want you to be the world-class leader. We want you to be a leader that's match fit and really out there ready to go and lead the organization. Now, that's a lot put onto your shoulders as a leader, but we're not asking you to be everything to everybody. You've got great people around you. Delegate, get them involved, and get them to help out. But what can you do to show up? How can you show up really great? Awesome energy, great to be around. How can you inspire people? And also, how can you add value to the business, to your customers, to your stakeholders, and to others within your team, your own people? That's the key things for you to think about. Because I tell you that a lot of you are hiding behind the mask, and you know what I'm talking about right now. And of course, I'm talking to you. Yes, there's the physical mask around the COVID side, but it's the other mask I'm talking about, the one that's not visible to everybody, but we know that you're hiding behind it. There are some simple things for you to do to remove that mask. First of all, you got to acknowledge it and understand that it's there. Number 2 is decide to do something about it. And if you can do that thing about it and actually move through it and break through that barrier and be the real, authentic, transparent, and vulnerable leader, you will see massive things happen. I think the leaders that are real, authentic, transparent, and vulnerable are powerful leaders. They are leaders who will lead the organization going forward big time. So my final word to you is this: take both masks off and lead going forward. Show your people what you need, that they're needing to do. Inspire them, then get out of the way and let them fly and be the best they can be. Hey listeners, what we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Change is incredibly scary, especially with the unknown and unfamiliar territory. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing. Look out for the episodes as they're being released. Download them, have a listen, put a review and a rating. Feel free to share them with your friends, your family, and your network. Hey, if there's any feedback you'd like to give me about the show, or if there's a question you have for the Ask Denis Freestyle episode, then send me an email, dennis@leadingchangepartners.com. Hey, listeners, it's always a pleasure being with you. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.